Charisma Quotient. I'm your host, Kim Seltzer, a dating and makeover expert, where I will help you build confidence, make connections, and find love from the outside in. As many of you know, a big part of what I coach is around flirting. Yes, flirting is one of those words that people react to and have a lot of associations with. Like you might hear the word and cringe, or you might say, oh, I love it. But whatever you think of it, flirting is one of the most crucial skills to have when it comes to attraction and dating. Yet, so many people have fears around it. Here's the thing. Remember, the true definition of flirting is to behave as though you are attracted to someone without the serious intention of an outcome. Now, I didn't make up this definition. This is what, you just look it up in the dictionary and that's what it is. There's some, other versions of it. But that last part, the serious intention of an outcome, is the most important because most fears that you have or excuses that you have around flirting has to do with you being attached to some sort of outcome. Like, I don't want to look stupid. I don't know how. I don't want to give that person the wrong impression, like all of those things, but that's not what it's really about. Flirting is supposed to be about a magnetism that just draws people to you. And from there, anything can happen, right? So that last part is what trips everyone up. And that is why I've been giving a lot of workshops around flirting and do wing girl sessions in person to teach people how to do it. I'm so excited that I'm starting to do that again. So if anyone is interested in coming to LA, or I can come to you to do an in-person experience, what a great way to do it, to get back out there. But here's the thing. There's a lot of psychology around flirting. When done well, flirting is not really overt or obvious, right, as always, and it leaves open to the possibility that flirting wasn't occurring at all. That's the problem. This ambiguity allows people to put themselves out there with less fear of embarrassment and rejection and, damaged self-esteem. But when it comes to flirting techniques, here's what the research says. The research shows that while subtlety is likely to protect the flirter's self-esteem, if you really want to get your message across, direct is best. Now, that might scare a lot of you when I just said that. The science of flirting suggests that when you want to create a sexual interest in one another, you really want to get that message across. It's like, as women, we think that we're being obvious, but we're not. I guarantee you, and men listening, you can back me up, because you need to send smoke signals out saying, hey, I'm open for business, and the direct methods are best. And just that kind of ambiguous approach is less threatening, but ultimately it's not very effective. So people aren't very good at perceiving flirting overall. So often people just don't flirt at the risk of not doing it, quote unquote, right, or getting rejected. And both men and women have a responsibility in approachability. I truly believe that. Most people think that men have to do all the work and go up to the women. But the truth is women, you need to turn your cab light on and say, hey, I'm approachable. I'm open for business. And often we, as the sexes, are at a stalemate because men are fearful of approaching and women are not approachable. So no one is meeting anyone. I mean, here's the conundrum. So what do you do? Where do you start? How do you initiate flirtatious interactions? Well, with me on the line today is a woman who's having a little bit of trouble with that. And she's trying to understand how to initiate flirting as a woman and hoping I can help her turn her cab light on. Well, at least I can show her where the light switch is. Corrine, are you there?
I'm here.
Hi. Well, I love this, and I love that I met you through the podcast, and I don't know you at all, which to me is the best, because I told you before we started recording this, like, save everything for the podcast because this is where I really like to have breakthroughs with people and have it be really organic. So anyway, Kareen, I'd love to hear more about you. Like, why don't you introduce yourself, like what you do, where you live, and a little bit of your dating history.
Well, like I said, my name is Kareen. So I'm a travel nurse. I go from city to city and working this pandemic. Thank goodness it's going down now. But regards to my dating history, it's not really well. I have not had the best luck when it comes to dating. Um, I have had a couple relationships that didn't go so well, but when it comes to dating, I just don't know how to make heads or tails of any of it.
Uh-huh. Okay. So are you saying that you've mostly been like quote unquote a relationship gal and you haven't really
Yeah, I'm still a relationship girl.
got it. Got it. Yeah. Oh, you nurses and we therapists, we're really good at that, right? Like being in the relationship and making everyone feel good and getting to like the
Yeah.
deep stuff. And then
Mm.
sometimes that's why dating gets hard. Well, so tell me what you've at least tried so far, because it sounds like you have a busy schedule and a schedule that might be like out of sync with a lot of people.
So when you say try, like, when it comes to dating, I've tried, like apps. Like I've tried, I tried Tinder. I tried,
Uh,
Hinge, tried Match. Like I have been able to get like a first date, but there's like, sometimes there's no connection there. And sometimes just even when talking to the person, I'm just like, I don't know what to tell you. I could just talk like a normal person, but when it comes to flirting, I'm just talking. I don't know anything else to do. You know what I mean?
okay. So you have the talking thing down. Like you can be
Yeah, I can
friends.
talk.
Right. I can
I'm a
hear
nurse, I
that.
can talk, but flirting, not so much.
Okay, so tell me more about that. Like, first of all, like, what are your associations with flirting? Like, how are you defining that?
So when I flirting to me is, maybe like showing interest somehow,
Mhm.
like making a spark, I guess. Make it. I don't know how to. I mean, I'm not sure if I'm defining this the correct way, but it's just showing interest, like letting the person know you're interested.
Yeah. Okay, so what about that is challenging for you?
Um, like I don't know the correct way to go about it.
Okay, so you feel like you don't have the technique down or like even know where to start to
Yes.
to do that.
Yeah. Yes.
Uh-huh. Okay. And like when you think in your head what that looks like is there a celebrity or a movie or like is there like this vision that you have? I mean, are you envisioning like girls twirling their hair and making googly eyes? I mean, what's happening in your head with that?
Now that that you mention it, yeah, I guess you would say the girl twirling her hair, the obvious, oh, I'm into you type of flirting.
Uh-huh. Is it attached to like having a sexual tone to it for you?
It could be. Yeah,
Mhm.
it could be.
Because I'm wondering, and this is just like a lot of times. See, I like to kind of peel away the layers, because on the surface, it's just like, oh, I'm not good at it. I don't know what to do. But like underneath, there's a lot of different things to unpack sometimes with it. And because I was just wondering, like, how do you feel about yourself in ways of like a feminine, sexy woman?
Are you asking, do I feel feminine?
Hmm.
I mean, I do. I mean, definitely don't think anybody would confuse me with a man. Um,
Uh-huh.
uh, I'm. Some people say I'm very smiley. Like I'm always laughing. Um, I have my down days where I feel like I should have probably did my mascara better, but
Hmm.
I feel feminine.
Hmm.
Yes.
Do you feel sexy?
Sometimes. Sometimes not so much.
Long pause. No, I'm just kidding. Um, what do you mean by sometimes?
I mean, you have your bad days. You're like, oh, I
Yeah.
just don't feel good today, Like I should have
Yeah.
the gym. Maybe I shouldn't eat that extra donut, you know?
Right. So that's just like kind of normal stuff. I mean, we all
Yeah.
have those days in our sweats and, that kind of thing. But I guess it's more around, I'm thinking about you when you're dating, right? Like, so when you're on these apps and you're having conversations, or even when you're on first dates,
Uh-huh.
are you able to think of yourself as a sexy, feminine woman? Like, are you holding that space and energy?
I'm not sure. Like, I think I am, but I'm not
Hmm.
sure. Like, I have nobody critiquing me to say, "Oh no, you weren't." But
Well,
I think
yeah,
so.
that could be taken care of. Maybe we'll do a wing girl session. But no, but I think that a lot of times you're thinking. I always say that we're our own worst critics every single time, and you might have these associations with, and like just like how you view yourself, but in reality, you might be doing it just fine. And that's why I'm trying to like understand your definition and how you feel about yourself, and then see like where the breakdown is. So, okay, so you say sometimes, and so you'll go out on dates, and then
Mhm.
so what happens after the first date? Where do you think the disconnect comes in?
Well, I just feel like it doesn't build. Like, I've
Uh,
been on a date, but there's just nothing to it. It's kind of empty.
okay, tell me more about that. Like, can you think of the last date that you
Oh,
had?
it's been a
And
minute. It's been maybe a year or two since I've dated. But
it's
yeah,
been
it's
a
been a
while.
while. I haven't done it in a while. I kind of just talk on the apps, but I haven't actually been on a date in a long time.
Uh-huh. Okay. Well, maybe and that is something that a lot of people I think are struggling with. It's been, quite a year for a lot of people where
Mm.
yeah, and then that can also get harder getting back out there. But when, before like a year ago when you had your last date, can
Uh-huh.
you kind of walk me through what happened and why it didn't build?
Ah, gosh, I gotta think of one. Um, I don't, I can't try to think of my last date. What happened? Um,
Is it I mean, and this is just maybe a general question, like, do you feel like it's just kinda these boring Q&A questions? It's just kinda humdrum, and then, like, there's just no chemistry that gets built from it?
Sometimes, I mean,
Mhm,
I've had my share. I don't know if I'm just not swiping right or just going on with the wrong person. Because
mhm.
I've been on dates where I'm like, okay, I probably shouldn't have gone out with this person. Like, they give me a very bad vibe. And I've had dates where it was just kind of stale. Like, there's nothing to talk about.
Right, right.
Yeah.
And then, like, when you're having these interactions, in terms of the flirting, are you waiting to see if there's chemistry where then you'll try to kinda be more flirtatious, or do you walk in on a date with that flirtatious kinda
Well,
attitude?
I would definitely trying to see if they're giving me a vibe that it's okay to like kind of be cheesy with them. Like, if they're not, it's try to make sure that I feel that they're receptive towards it. Like, if they're kind of giving me a standoffish, like, I'm not feeling you, then I probably wouldn't.
Ah. Okay. I think we're getting somewhere. This is like detective work, It's like, um, and, and I'm just guessing, just obviously with what you do for a living, and it's something that like,
Mhm.
cause are you you do tend to be a caretaker mostly? Like you
I mean,
worry? Yeah.
I mean, I'm a nurse. I'm a
Well,
caretaker.
right.
um, but at home,
Yeah. Like in
it's just
relationships, even
me.
in yeah, like even with relationships that you've had in the past, like do you tend to like fill that role where you'll attend to other people's needs sometimes above your own?
Sometimes,
Hmm.
maybe, maybe, maybe not so much. I guess I've never had someone really critique me on it. So
Right.
when you say that, I mean, like, what are you considering? Like, caring of my needs more than someone else's?
Well, I think it's really common, especially like as caregivers, and maybe it's something, and I don't really know much about your past, but like a lot of times, even in your ascribed role growing up, where, you just learned, and that's where your confidence lives, to tend to people's needs and maybe being a little bit of a people pleaser and wanting people to feel good before you do something, like kind of more worried and concerned about what other people feel over your own.
Okay. Maybe. I think so.
Yeah.
I think
It's a
so.
common thing. And then, with that, if you kind of feel into like conversations that you have with like people or men, do you
Mhm.
tend to ask a lot of questions to just get a feel for them before you'll like share something about yourself?
Oh, oh yeah, definitely.
Uh-huh. Okay. Right. Because I wonder, and this relates to flirting, by the way. I know it seems like we're diverting, but it actually isn't. Whenever I hear people say, oh, well, I don't know when to initiate or what I'm doing and all that. I mean, Kareen, it's not like I'm talking to someone who's not social or friendly. Like, you're
Uh-huh.
awesome. Like, you have a great energy. You even said like you're smiley. Like you probably have a very good vibe, and you probably make men feel really great. But I'm wondering what's missing is that you're thinking so much about the man and if it's okay and to do things right and to make
Uh,
right, that you lose your power, you lose your sense of, like, what do I want, what am I going to do going in to this
mhm.
date? And so what happens is you end up being in a reactive mode versus proactive.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
It does.
What are
It
you
does.
thinking?
No, I'm thinking to what you're saying. Like I'm trying to picture myself in the situation and um uh how my reactions are to them, and if they were um like you said, reactive. Like
Mhm.
how, because I try to get a read on people.
Yeah.
So trying to see if they are reactive instead of proactive.
Where does that come from? Do you know?
Um, Trying to read somebody.
Mhm.
Um, I don't know. I think I do that with all my conversations with anybody I'm talking to, because I just kind of see where their headspace is.
Yeah, like, I mean, when you were growing up, was that something that you were kinda trained to do? Like, tell me a little bit more about your upbringing.
Um, well, I'm one of six. I have six siblings.
Ooh.
Um, my all right. Um, my parents are from the Caribbean islands, so
Mhm.
um, they're from another country, but they came here. My parents were really religious. So I was
Oh.
born in a very religious upbringing, and I was homeschooled until college. So I know that I kind of missed the high school where you would learn to, make friends and all that stuff. So I kind of missed
Oh.
that part of my life, and maybe in the flirting stage that you would learn in high school. So I kind of got that more so when I went to college. And
Mhm.
like I said, my parents were more so like we weren't on the wealthy side. So when I went to college, I was very dedicated. I was like, I have to get through college, and because
Yeah.
if I can't get through, then I just leave my family in debt, and I can't do that. So I was very focused. So like I had like two jobs in college and working through. So I graduated, and then when I ended up graduating, I was like, oh, now I'm supposed to get in a relationship, and I don't know how to go about that. So
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. No, that helps me also understand a little bit because I always say, our journey shapes us so much. And sometimes we don't even realize it, and fast forward to now, here you are like trying to twirl your hair, make googly eyes. And it's like,
like
because
I don't know what I'm doing.
right. Yeah. And here you were homeschooled all this time. And that's so interesting. Well, and with that, just a couple more questions around that. I- with such a big family too,
Mhm.
was there room or was there even like time for you to express how you felt and, I know sometimes with religious families, like expressing feelings aren't really there. Like, tell me more about that.
Um, I can say my family were very big on feelings. Like
Oh,
we
yeah.
had each other, so it was just us because so we had each other. I was a middle child, so I don't know if that goes into any of that. Because you know how they say middle children are ignored, or you kind of learn from your older ones, kind of just observe them. See what did you do wrong, you know, type of thing.
Ah,
I don't know if that's where it came in. Like I just learned to observe from watching everybody else. Um,
yeah. Yeah, no, listen to that. Like what you said, like compared to like what you're doing now. Like you're an observer, right?
yeah.
And it's interesting because you did have to learn and try to figure some things out on your own. And it's so great that your parents were supportive of feelings and stuff like that, but it was almost like you were in kind of your own little world, with
Mhm.
how your environment was, and you were just trying to figure things out, and you learned to figure things out by observing, and
Yeah.
and waiting to see, like, okay, am I doing it right? And listen
Mhm.
to your question at the beginning of the podcast. Am I doing it right? I don't know how to do it. Right.
Yeah.
And so then, maybe also thinking of yourself as, I don't know, how old are you, by the way?
I'm 28.
28, right. And so, like, a lot of the women who at your age, like in high school, like you said, learned how to do the flirting thing and dating without getting attached and all that jazz, and earlier. And so it's like you're playing a little bit of catch up as well.
Yeah. Mhm.
And it's hard because, you see people around you who know how to do it and at your age, but you have to actually think of yourself as maybe 10 years younger than you are, in ways of flirting and dating and stuff like that. And it is like going to school a little bit. It's almost like maybe homeschooling yourself around flirting and dating and not worrying about getting it right, but really like having a plan to go out and practice it
Mhm.
and not worrying about the outcome and not worrying if you're doing it right, kind of
Mhm.
thing. Are you a high achiever? Like you like to get good grades and do things?
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So some of the fear is the failure. Like, oh, if I'm not going to do it right, and I'm observing whether or not this guy's going to accept me being a flirt or not,
Mhm.
then I'm not going to do it. And then you don't feel anything at the date. Do you see how like it can loop around?
Okay. Yeah. I think I do. Because I'm also trying to like protect my feelings while observing him.
Exactly. Like, I think it would, and I always tell people this who haven't had a lot of, experience is, you know, think of yourself being in kindergarten. Like you're trying to be in the PhD program
Uh-huh. Don't
when you
have
haven't even gone to kindergarten yet.
yeah.
Right. And you're trying to do it right. And you're trying to achieve and, give me the manual and do I do this and do I do that? Right. Because that's how you've
Yeah.
learned. But the
Yeah.
reality is you're probably doing it just fine, and I think you just don't, like you said, you just don't know. But that the evidence that you'll know is how you feel and how things progress, but you just haven't given yourself enough time and experience to allow that to happen.
Okay. Okay.
Does that make sense, like, as
It
I'm saying?
does. It
Mhm.
does. Just practice.
Right, I know that it sounds so simplistic, but, that's hard to do
Mhm.
when you don't know where to go and where to start, and it can be overwhelming. That's just like me telling you, just talk German right now, go, ready, go. It's like, well, that's great,
Yeah,
Kim, I've
I
never
can
seen that before.
handle that.
Yeah. Well, tell me more about your social life. Like, do you have a set of other single girlfriends that you can go out with?
So being a travel nurse kind of zeroes your social life.
Yeah.
I travel so much. I try to establish, a group of friends at least when I do travel, but it doesn't always happen. You have to find people who have a time that they can kind of, you know, um, hang out or whatever.
Mhm.
And you have to learn how to make friends quick
Oh,
because in
yeah.
3 months you're leaving, you know. So I don't. I am very close to my family. I can say
Mhm.
that, but as far as like a group of people, I really don't have that just because, like I said, I travel so much. Um,
Yeah. I've worked with other people who've had like similar situations because it is
mhm,
hard to get consistency,
mhm.
with your social life, as you're saying. And you might just have to be a little creative with that. And, with that being said, you just might have to take yourself out on dates and,
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
And so let's get to kind of more the tips, like what you could do. Cause I always like to say, okay, here's the how to. Cause
Mhm,
to your point, I think we uncovered a little bit, obviously, like if we were working together, like there's probably other things to unpack, but I just get this sense of your need to practice so that you don't get in your head so much about it and you're not reactive and worrying about if you're doing it right and what the guys think, that you're coming from more of a place of being a queen bee and just walking in the room and owning it and not caring what the guys think. It's about you, not them.
right.
That's the power, right? Like that. And that is hard for a nurse because you're so used to attending to other people's needs and like reading
Yeah.
them, and also with your upbringing. So it's just literally a new way of thinking and training your brain, and because you're going to have to do a little bit of reverse engineering and shut that nurse brain off so that you
Okay.
can be in that like kind of queen mentality, so to speak.
Okay.
So
Alright.
yeah. Okay. So the first thing that I would say to do is I would schedule a time every time. Well, does your schedule change in ways of the hours too that you work?
So it depends on where I go. Like say
Mm.
right now I'm in Alabama. In a month I'll be in Vermont. So sometimes I do day shift, which is 7 to 7. Other times I do night shift, which is 7 p to 7 a. And sometimes I do a mid, which would be 9,
Ah,
11, or 3. So it's just all over.
that is hard. I feel for you. Yeah. So what I would do is just maybe at the top of the week when you know your schedule, you just pick one time during the week where you can maybe just go out and take yourself out on a date and practice talking
Mhm.
to men.
Okay.
And your job is to not see if they're your next boyfriend, because that's the problem with relationship people is like you're going to be constantly vetting these guys as if they're your next boyfriend. I don't want
Yeah.
you doing that.
Okay.
They're not your right. Like I want you
Yeah.
just literally practicing. They're specimens, if you will. They're just warm bodies that you're practicing
Mhm.
and just getting really comfortable being you and not really caring about what they think.
Okay. Scary.
Okay. Is that scary?
Little.
Yeah. What
Definitely out of my
scares?
comfort zone.
Awesome. Which is why exactly why I want you to do it. Because no one
Okay.
changes being in their comfort zone. Change
Yeah.
only happens in discomfort. So the fact that that makes you queasy is perfect. Like because it's something
Okay.
that. So like when you feel into like what makes you uncomfortable about that, what do you know what that is?
I think it's just the part of being out by myself and, you know, being the one to actually, start talking to them, and just that
Yeah.
whole part is just different for me. So, yeah.
Exactly, which is why it would be so good. And so here's your kind of assignment around that
Mhm.
is that let's say you pick if you do have some like happy hour time, that's always a nice time to go, like 5 o'clock, and
Mhm.
or you could go to the grocery store during the weekend and just practice talking to men in the grocery store. Like it doesn't have to be this big deal, but just
Mhm.
schedule it so that you make yourself do it. And
Okay.
then when you initiate conversation, don't get in your head about it whether or not you're doing it right. Just stay present and just say hi.
Okay.
Smile. You already told me you have a nice smile. Honestly, Kareen, that's half the battle. Like I cannot, I swear to God, I cannot tell you because obviously you men out there listening, you know this, and men tell me this. It's like they just want to know that you want to talk to them, like, because they're more scared of you than you are of them. I guarantee every single time. And if you just like look like you're approachable and you make eye contact and you put that smile on,
Mhm.
don't worry, the rest will happen. Just say hi. Just say hi
Okay.
and just see what happens.
All right. Gonna have to see what happens.
And you just see what happens. Like now, from there, you might get tongue tied and not know what to say and all that jazz. But like, don't get ahead of it. Like I would just do that for a couple weeks and just then go home and journal how you felt in those
Okay.
interactions.
All right. All
Not if
right.
you gave the guy a good time or you did it right. Since you said you're good at like your feelings, I want you to express how you felt in those moments.
Okay.
Because see, I
Oh,
think what's happening too is you're worried if the guy's having a good time or you're doing something well, or if can I then turn it on if he's going to be the right boyfriend for me? Like you're getting way too ahead of it in your head, and
uh-huh.
just like
I'm not
say hi. Right, like just
in
say
the moment.
hi. Yeah,
Okay.
I'll never forget. I was coaching a woman who was like you. She didn't have a lot of experience. And what was so fascinating, like you, in her job, she was super, like she was in human resources. So obviously she had to interact with humans and she was, a leader there and she had no problem like talking and being friendly. But then when it
Mhm.
came to this flirting thing in men, she just got tongue tied. And we were sitting at this bar, and right next to us, I was like facing her and she was facing the guy, if you can kind of picture that. And I saw her eyes look over my head. I said, "Who just sat down next to me?" She said, "A guy." I said, "Fantastic." I said, "Well, if I keep my back to him, then we're closing the door for conversation. So I'm just going to open the door up and I'm going to literally smile and say hi and just watch what happens." So I opened up my body. I leaned back. I said, "Hi." He's like,
Mhm.
"Oh, hi." And then the rest was history. Like we
This
had a
this
beautiful conversation, and we didn't try to get too into it of like all the techniques and the googly eyes and all that jazz. Like, because the reality is that you may not be that girl either. And then later on, it'll be finding your flirt style, which is what I go over in like, workshops and stuff like that. Cause everyone has a different style. Like you don't have to be that person you see in the movies. Most people can't, and it looks awkward because you don't, like that's not you, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
How does this all feel so far?
I mean, how does it feel? I mean, it's like I'm definitely getting out of my comfort zone. I could
Mhm.
definitely see that. I mean, I'm a person, I will try it, you know?
Yeah.
I'll
'Cause
definitely try it.
well, see, this is why the coaching piece is so good because you're a good student, and if I'm giving you homework,
Uh-huh.
then you're more likely to do it to try to succeed than you just
Mhm.
kind of spinning in your head around it. You know what I mean? So that's the
Yeah.
value of doing that in ways of like motivation and accountability. And even if you had, a partner in crime to hold you accountable, or whether it's me or a friend or a mentor or someone at work, and just say, "Hey, I'm doing this, I'm just keep me in check," kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I would start really small. Like I think the other thing that I would assign you to do is
Mhm.
I'd like you to do the same thing with Tinder or whatever profile that you're doing. Have a bunch of conversations and just practice being playful and fun, not worrying whether or not they're your next boyfriend. Like it's a different way of having conversations.
Okay. I
Just
can
say,
do
"Hey,
that.
who's yeah,
That seems easier to do than actually doing in person.
okay, good. Okay, good. But get like as many dates as you can. So if that's easy for you, that's great because then that means you can like get a bunch of dates. Just use
Yeah.
that since it's easier for you and then get a bunch of dates that you can practice on.
Okay. All right. I think that's doable.
Yeah, and I would just start really small and then, and then you reassess how things are maybe you'll be like, wow, this isn't as hard as I thought. And I'm actually having fun. Because that's the other thing, is that dating becomes laborious and tiring, and you get burnt out and you have anxiety around it when you get in your head and you're thinking too much and you're worrying about whether or not you're doing it right. When you just relax into it and treat everything as one big party, that's why I tell people, like, online and offline, just treat life right now as one big party. And you're just entering a party and you're just saying hi to a bunch of people. That's it.
Okay.
The rest we'll worry about later. Like, that'll be a great problem to have if you have all these guys after you. And then you're like coming back on the podcast and say, Kim, I have 5 guys in my queue. Now what? You know?
Yeah. Okay. I think I could do that.
I know you.
Attempt.
Yes, exactly. You can. And I love that you're just open to trying it. Like, that really is half the battle. That's awesome. Yeah, and again, like, give yourself a break. I'll just end with that, because I think you've been putting so much pressure on yourself. Like, oh my God, am I doing it right? And I just don't know. There is no right or wrong. The only wrong is not doing it at all and not putting yourself out there. That's the only wrong. I tell people all the time, because there's no such thing as rejection. There's only experience. And with each experience, you'll gather more information about yourself and also the men.
All right. Well, thank you.
You're welcome. Do you have any, like, just wrap up, words that you want to share, how you're feeling? Like, tell me.
Well, definitely, I definitely have a new agenda now. I feel like I just need to learn to wrap my head around, okay, I don't really need to think of this person as a potential boyfriend. Just have fun. Yeah,
Yes.
just have fun.
Just have fun. And you sound like a fun woman. Like, your voice is warm. Like, I liked you from the minute you said hello. And I think men probably do too. I think you're just tripping your own self up. That's really what it is.
Well, thank you, put it that way.
Yeah, I honestly, that's my diagnosis for you. I know it's not very sexy, but really, it just seems like
Right.
you just got to get yourself some more experience and not be so boyfriend focused, because that's all you know. All you know are relationships. So it's just new territory. It's just like when you first learned how to be a nurse. You need to just learn it and go back to kindergarten.
Okay. All right, thank you.
You are so welcome. Well, Kareen, thank you for coming on today. And I do have something special that I'm going to share, and you'll hear me as I close out this episode. So thanks for joining me today. If you're listening to this has been the Charisma Quotient. I'm your host, of course, Kimmy Seltzer. And remember, you can build confidence, make connections, and find love from the outside in. And if you want to know more, make sure you go to my site, as always, kimmyseltzer.com. And when listening to this, you realize that you want to crack the code in how to flirt so that you can create chemistry with someone you want to. And everywhere you go, hop on a free call with me, like I just did with Kareen. Okay, maybe it's not on the podcast, but it can be in the privacy of a phone call by clicking the link you see in the show notes to book it, so I can help you get unstuck. Also, I have a really exciting announcement. I've been alluding to this. I have an amazing 6-week class coming up in July. It's called, ready for this? Get Your Sexy Back. Yes, this is an interactive, fun coaching program that's going to teach you how to look and feel attractive, desirable, and feminine so that you capture a man's interest no matter who you are with and where you go. Sorry, men. I will be offering a class for you men too. Don't worry. But this is for women. So if you are interested in attending, all you got to do is just go to askkimmy.com, drop me a note and say, hey, Kimmy, I'm interested in that class. I want to find out more. And then you'll be on my priority list. I already have 10 women signed up for this, and I haven't even really talked about it. So it's something I'm excited to put out. So just get in touch with me. And until then, remember, working on you is working on your love life. That's all for now.